Hi, it's Steve Hargadon, and we're definitely in the second half, closing in on the final third of the inaugural Reinventing the Classroom conference. We're so glad you're here, and we're so glad to have Rushton and Hurley here as our late afternoon keynote speaker. Welcome, Rushton.
Thanks, excited to be here.
Again, I count Rushton as a friend and really appreciate his contribution to the world. Thanks to ClassFlow for supporting this event and allowing us to hold it for free. Thanks to Blackboard Collaborate for such a stable platform. What a great thing they have done. This is a chance for those of you in the live audience to indicate where you're participating from. Look to the left of the map for the second icon down, the star icon. Click on it twice, then click on the map. And you can put a little note in the chat. Looks like we've hit 2 continents already. Welcome Peggy in Phoenix. Azar in Egypt, I think.
Egypt, that's right.
But I don't think Azar's star is there, so somebody's in Austria, I'm guessing. Is that Sean?
It could be, if it's Sean. I got a good movie in Sean who's in Vienna, so that may be it.
Wherever you're participating from, or if you're listening to the recording, we really appreciate your joining us. Dorf size. Size that you're not somewhere exotic. Sean. Okay, Rushton, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'll be prepared when you call on me.
Sounds good. Well, welcome everybody. I hope that you are taking in all of the coolness that is the par for the course when you're looking at the online conferences that this team puts on. And so I hope that you've already had a lot of interesting ideas, and that there will be some more in the coming hour. Peggy and group, awesome to be able to share with you for sure. So as we leap into it, first I'd like to put Steve's mug up there. Thank you, Steve and Amy, for all of the work you guys did, helping me out get ready for this. And just to say to the group as well that it's a privilege to be listed among the rather amazing speakers that they brought into it. So I feel honored in that case for sure. Do know that the images that I use in my presentation are Creative Commons licensed. They are sometimes linked screenshots, or they are my work, but I will make sure they are cited because that's the right thing to do. Just got to say that. Okay, so with that, let's kind of leap into this. I want to explain kind of what this will be, recognizing that there are certain things that it won't be, and I'll speak to that as well. But fundamentally, I'm going to focus more on reinvention of the school as the path to reinventing the classroom. I see school-wide change in terms of reinvention as being something about the team, and specifically what the team will rally around. You know, I think that part of what we're always seeking to do is to find that which allows us with our students, or us with our colleagues, or us as a larger group to stop and say, hey, this is where we want to go. This is the excitement. This is what we're capable of, and so that's going to be the focus of what I'll talk about going forward. So in that it's not, in that that's what it is. Let me tell you what it's not. It's not the shape of reinvention specifically for your school. The shape that will need to take if you are in that space where you're like, our school needs some reinvention, then it won't be that so directly, in part because I believe that you have to focus in on individual strengths, individual organizational strengths to be able to know exactly what that is. But I do think that what this is a chance to think about how you can get that conversation started, and how you can make progress as a result of starting in the right place, hence the title, First Steps Towards Reinvention. And while technology's role will be an integral part of my talk, I will also say that it's not going to be a big focus on anything technical. For those who are looking for that kind of thing, I can sum it up in about 4 words: wireless infrastructure and bandwidth. There you go. So, you know, if that's kind of clear in mind, then you're heading in the right directions. So I see the real foundation for reinvention as something that's more in our hearts than in our tools. And to that end, let's make sure we are being social. Yeah. So a little bit about who I am, because a few of you have been that I know, and I've inflicted my thoughts on you before, and you're kind to return for more. Those of you who haven't and are about to have these things inflicted upon you for the first time, I apologize as the bows go for any pain that may ensue. But I'm a native Texan living in California. And I spent 2 years in Japan, a semester in college, and then a year and a half after that, and that shapes a lot of how I think about what's possible for teachers. It's what got me excited about the professional path of being a teacher. In terms of thinking, I like working with these teenage people. They're interesting. They're fascinating. And so that's kind of what got me going there. I also spent a year in Western Australia at the University of Western Australia, and then came back to the United States in order to go to graduate school here in California to pursue a couple of master's degrees in education and in East Asian studies. In 2006, I was part of the first cohort of Google certified teachers, which there's all sorts of things that corporate connections can be seen as positively and negatively. But I would say that the opportunity to have been connected to a bunch of really dynamic people for almost 8 years now has been a wonderful piece of that experience for me. And then I also have worked with the Krause Center for Innovation, speaking of dynamic people, at Foothill College in the Silicon Valley area of Northern California. And the link to the merit program there is one that let's see, Steve, if you would toss that into the chat, that would be cool as well. That's a program for teachers around the world to spend a year working with wildly cool and interesting colleagues. You can do all that online except for 2 weeks in July when people come together and learn all sorts of cool stuff and share ideas and design wonderful activities for the fall and such. So I will get that in so you guys can see it. There, almost all of it is online, that is. Thanks, Steve. Good man. All right, so with that, let me kind of go to the last little bit here, which is my little attempt to save the world from ignorance, one creative video at a time. Next Vista for Learning is the nonprofit that I founded and run. It has a library of videos made by and for teachers and students everywhere. It's free to use, free to contribute to, free to download from. The videos are short, 5 minutes or less, typically 2 minutes or less, and they're all for a student audience. Some of it's subject-specific stuff. Some of it is about service to others. I'll speak to that a little bit farther along. Some of it is about different parts of the world. And we get some just wonderfully cool things from people in different places on every continent, every populated continent anyway. And so I'm very happy towards the end, if you have questions about that, speak to that more. So a little bit about you. Let's use the chat. Here's what I'd like you to do. You see the example there. I'd like you to tell, your name's already there, but tell what you do and where you are. So if you are a teacher in Kyoto, you'd say teacher in Kyoto, Japan. You might say principal in Amarillo, Texas, or wherever you might be. But if you guys would, go ahead and toss that into the chat so we've got a better sense of kind of who these interesting folks who showed up for this session would be. We've got a former teacher in Georgia, very cool. We have got Montreal, Susan, bienvenue, or I'm probably mixing 2 languages there, sorry. Lots of cool people coming in, awesome. And I think that part of what we see when we do anything like this is that we're suddenly connected to these people who are dedicated to making interesting things happen. One of the things that we often face when we think about something like reinvention is, does anybody else on my campus care? And the answer is almost always yes, but you may or may not see it. But you get into these kinds of settings, and you find that people care deeply about making great things happen in all sorts of places. And as you begin to learn what they've seen and experienced, it becomes much easier to go back to your own colleagues and say, hey, I heard about this. What do you think? And those kinds of experiences can move a group towards invention in a very healthy way. All right, folks, feel free to keep tossing in cool ideas on that front as well. The chat is there not as a distraction because I get boring, although feel free to use it as a distraction if I get boring, but also because if this session is about the talents and ideas of the entire group that showed up today, then it's going to be much more valuable than if it's just the stuff coming from me. So please do be a part of that discussion as we go. All right. So here's what I want you to add to the chat next. No, it's not weird steroid-driven, kind of toy things. Actually, strengths. So I'd like you to put separately a general strength and a specific strength of the Lisa, I definitely gave you that permission, of the school where you either are or kind of feel most associated with, maybe most recently were, anything like that. What are those strengths? Would you say that a strength is something general? We love children, or would it be something more specific? We have this amazing music program in which kids do blah blah blah. So add those kinds of thoughts to the chat as well. What are the strengths of the school that you associate yourself with in some fashion? Let's let the chat build up some good thoughts there. And as we start popping up, I'll toss in a few ideas as well. So Susan talks about child-centered and reflective, but I mean, that's huge, right? Child-centered sounds, kind of trite in a way, but it's not at all. In part because so many schools would say that, but they're actually very much focused on the adults who are there. There is a need to make sure that adults have a good environment in which to pursue their professional possibilities. But that's different than being child-centered, really. Can you say that we're looking for those things that make a difference in the lives of children? And here's the proof of that. I'm seeing a lot of specifics come in as well. A strong drama program, a great arts program, an open-minded administration. Wow, that's awesome. I think when you have leaders who welcome a lot of different ideas and even act on them, two different things, then obviously something very cool can happen in your setting. Language learning of students' reasons for wanting to speak Spanish. Ooh, nice. All right, so a lot of good pieces there. Feel free to keep tossing those in as well. That too, kind of falls into the realm of, the more people have the chance to say, hey, this is something special, the more others will stop and go, wow, I wonder if that's something we can do at our school. And stay in touch with each other. I mean, feel free to make those connections. I'll also ask that people toss in their Twitter handles because you never know when a chance discussion in a session like this might lead to all kinds of wonderful things. So, oops, I just tossed the wrong one in for myself. Classic. All right, so there I really am. I'm at Rushton H. And so other folks, feel free to follow these cool folks who are here. And by all means, have some good thoughts to share with the world. Let's keep on moving, shall we? All right. So I mentioned before that I think that reinvention is about that which people will rally around. What is it essentially that makes people go, okay, wow, that's cool, and now they're focused on really good discussions. Because we all understand the absence of this. There is the what I'll call the rancid quagmire of the staff room, where hope goes to perish, that kind of thing. That's always kind of a bummer when you have that feeling. And I don't mean to knock, say, the 1960s, but that was just a picture I found. And we have to stop and say, are there other possibilities? Could we be talking about different things? Could it even look a different way? How about that for a staff room right there? Could we have the kind of steampunk environment, for example, that would have people sit down and immediately start thinking of cool ideas? When we think about reinvention, we're really beginning to cut loose our sense of the way things have to be, because we can keep a system much like we have and still make it 1,000% better by just deciding we're going to have much more interesting conversations with each other. I believe that's something we can do, and to do that we really have to find common ground, right? So what are those things that allow us to stop and say, yeah, we may differ on this or that or the other thing, but we have this that we share, and it's something important to us. Strengths are going to vary from school to school, right? But in truth, there are things that we all tend to want. And I'm going to focus on 3 elements that I think fit that description. And I think that with those things in place, so much is possible. So let's go to the first one of those. And the first thing I think is this: we want to find the fun in what we do, right? As teachers, we need to be having fun. I don't think, for example, that it is a foul in any way to have experiences in the classroom that make everybody laugh, or anything like that. But it does tend to move us in some interesting direction. For example, I'll tell you about this. So this is a picture from a party at my house earlier this year, a few months ago. My wife and I do not have children by choice. As a matter of fact, we get home at the end of the day, there's no children there, and it's okay. Just saying. Anyway, but we do have these kind of moments where what we do is try to create some cool experiences for the kids of our friends. And so we have a thing called the Candy Train Party every year, and we buy a ridiculous amount of sugar that I'm sure Dennis would gnash teeth about, hot, so to speak. But in doing that, they build trains out of the sugar. Well, here's Cole's. Cole is one of those kiddos who just I think has nothing but bright future ahead of him, and he built this train out of it. I'm actually thinking more about another one that I failed to take a picture of, and I'm feeling mighty lame on that front, but it's this. I walked by this other kid's train. Well, so he's kind of built this stuff up, and he's got 2 peppermints on one side and 1 peppermint on the other. And I'm thinking, okay, so that's the wheels of the train, fine, and he must not be finished yet. Well, as he sees me sitting there looking at his train, he says, "Hey, this is my train." And I thought, wow, yeah, it's cool. He says, "Look, there's only 3 wheels." I said, "Well, I see that." He says, "Do you know why?" I said, "No. Why are there only 3 wheels?" "That's because it got into a battle with a dragon." Well, I mean, that to me is just kind of another level of cool, right? There's something about kids at age 5 or 6 or whatever it was. It's nothing holding them back, I mean, there you go. Your train got into a battle with a dragon. Awesome. Now, somewhere along the line, we stop tossing those things into our own heads and lose something awfully cool about who we can be. Because I think once we begin, adding those really kind of fun pieces of possibility to the stuff that we're responsible for teaching and having them even perform well on tests on, blah, 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 stuff like that. I think that we begin to create an environment to reinvent our setting in such a way that people begin to say, okay, wait, tell me more about this and this. It connects to this other thing that we're trying to teach them. It may be that other thing, from a wonderfully cool perspective, all kinds of pieces, right? So for those of you who teach, it kind of raises a question. And I would toss this question at you. You don't need to answer it in the chat, you can if you want, but let me just kind of toss this out there. Do you enjoy the classes you teach, right? Do you enjoy them? And I think that's one of those things. We have to stop and be honest with ourselves from time to time. Hey, I'm teaching, but I'm not having fun. That's a sign, right? Do your students enjoy the classes, right? And if they do, why? What is it that's working such that tends to make the environment better, the learning more effective, and if you haven't had fun with what you teach in a while, that's a sign that something needs to change. It may be something small, it may be something huge, but it does mean that something needs a little reinvention. So let's explore this another way. Okay, I'm going to have you guys add something to chat. Everybody get ready to chat, fingers above the keyboard, ready to go, all that kind of thing. I want you, and I'd love to do this really quickly. Everybody ready? Ready? Peggy's ready. I want you to type the word, specifically the adjective that you would expect students to use when describing school. Okay, tell me about school. Give me school in one word. All right. So we looked down the list, right? And 3 of the first 4 were boring. Ugh, falls into the same thing. Monotonous. There are positive comments in there as well. I'm guessing those come from, say, 1st and 2nd grade teachers by and large, right? That's a time when everybody's like, oh yeah, and they hug your leg, and it's nice. But interestingly, if we're saying that there is this tendency to use a word like boring, what's going on there? Because I think with minimal thought, we'd quickly get to the place where we'd know that's not even the truth. Even though a lot of kids would say school is boring, it's boring, dude, that kind of stuff. It's not actually how they feel. They like school. They like being around their friends. They like being around patient, stable adults in their lives. Many of them don't have that at home. And so why do they use the word? Is it just because other people are using the word? I don't think so. I think the issue is that they're confusing the idea of boring with a different idea. And that idea is predictability. They find that a lot of what they experience in school is predictable. And their word boring, comes out as a reaction to that. And that's actually something that we can very, very easily interrupt. And so if we're going to interrupt predictability, how can we do it? I want to say that one of the easiest ways to do it is with stuff you can find online for free, and it's this. It's images. So I was a language teacher, so all the more easily used for me. And I would do things like say, okay, hey guys, what's the word for bicycle? All right. Now that's just not that interesting a question, right? Who can translate it? More interesting is to say, hey, what is this? What is this? And see if they can come up with it. Now, when looking at a picture like this, we've changed the dynamic a bit. First of all, people have to stop and take a look. They have to take an interest. So as you look at a picture like that, imagine what might be happening. Imagine that there's a kid in that room who loves BMX, who would rather be out on the bicycle, tends to see school as an interruption of that kind of opportunity, but then sees this picture, and suddenly for the first time there's a connection between school and that set of interests that he or she may have. We can use images to create connections in ways that perhaps don't naturally arise when we're using language without reference to visuals. Here's another picture of bicycles. I think this is a wildly interesting picture. I didn't know until I started looking for pictures of bicycles that there are people who herd camels with bicycles, and the kinds of wonderful discussions that can come up about what are we seeing? What are these guys doing, and why, and what does it mean to live there? And do you know people whose lives here are really not that different in some fashion, and so you can build on these really creative discussions that pop up all the more easily because of an interesting visual. And there's bazillions of interesting visuals out there for you. I mean, you just go to search.creativecommons. I should write that in. Search.creativecommons.org. You go to a site like that, and you can find all kinds of wonderful pictures that essentially, first of all, they're legal to use and launch new possibilities in your class. Essentially, that's what they can do. It's something special to have something like that happen. There's so much more, right? So, you look at a picture like this. Okay, bicycle taxis. Okay, that's interesting. But there may also be kids in your room that see a picture that has Café Ciudad on the side of a building, and they say, hey, wait, that's like where I'm from. And suddenly there's a connection that wasn't there before. We're looking for those moments that capture their attention and create connections. This is the kind of thing that tends to capture attention. This is not something you see every day. A couple of you may have done it before breakfast today, but probably not. What's going on? Okay, it's a bicycle, fine, but why would somebody do this? What's going on? Do you play the guitar? I mean, there's all kinds of interesting things that come from this kind of picture, and we can get to fascinating places across the spectrum, academically speaking, with these pictures as well. Here's an interesting picture as well. If I use the word Schwinn, many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. But students today might not have a sense that Schwinn and bicycle are in some places at some times they were kind of almost interchangeable terms. So there's a lot of different kinds of ways we can use images to interrupt the predictability that move kids into into kind of a low gear with their learning. I think that's something we want, and this is part of that sense of wanting things to be fun. All right, so speaking of fun, I am Steve. This is a moment. I'm going to have everybody watch a video. All right, so we're going to watch this short video together, and we'll kind of share some ideas on it coming out of it. So as you watch it, think about what it may mean for you as a teacher. Steve, if you'd start that up, that'd be awesome. Yes, it is.
I'm going to put it in the web tour here. If it doesn't show up for you, I'll also put it in the chat, and you can click on the link in the chat and play it in your own browser. And it does look like you have to hit play.
So people need to push play themselves. Yeah. All right. So, Chris, hang in there on your cupcakes. Watch a video like that, and I'm curious, kind of what you think. Does it make you think of what you can do? Does it make you think of what you would like to be doing? What you want to be able to do? There's a lot of things that kind of leap to mind, I think, naturally as we watch somebody having that much fun. It's also, I think, a perfectly good question. Is it intimidating to watch? And for some people, it is. The thought that somebody would get out and spend their time that way when they think about their own lives, I think, that's kind of intimidating. And if so, I think what we're seeing are cases of CIS, which is comparison inadequacy syndrome, and that's something that happens like way too much in schools, where teachers stop and say, oh, I can't do what this other teacher can do, or I can't do what this presenter can do, or whatever it may be. And in fact, they're much closer to being able to do cool things than they think. Because in terms of comparison, there really is only one person that teachers should ever be comparing themselves to. And that is the you who you were yesterday. Always think in terms of, have I added to my game? Have I added to the things that fascinate me? What's possible? Roger says, quit school in order to go learn. Let's hope that the school is creating an environment where that isn't the necessary move. Awesome. So that first bit, has to do with having fun in what we do, and I want to move to the second bit as well. So the second bit has to do with time, in part because time is the #1 stress for teachers almost everywhere I go. And so, you know, I talked before about, you know, what is it that we want? We all have these same wants. We want to have fun in the work we do. We also want to save ourselves time. And we want to be able to use time better. Well, how do you do that? One way you do that is by making sure that you're not reinventing the wheel. This is just something that happens way, way too much. So I'm going to get very practical for a moment. I'll show you a site. I'm sure you've seen it before. We all use it. It'd be this one right here. And loads of teachers use this site, and very few use it to save themselves time. And they should be. And so here's just a little piece of advice right here. As you do searches for the stuff you teach, add this to it. So you're going to teach haiku poetry. Add to that file type :PPT. Now you can do this other ways as well, via advanced search or whatever, but just learning this little bit right here means that whatever it is you're about to teach, you can find out, okay, you know, what other presentations are out there that teach this. So you know, when you do this, first of all, technically, the colon's big there, you know, make sure you don't have a space on either side. And that there's all kinds of things that can come from this. So let's take a look. So a search on haiku poetry, file type PPT. You get something like this. Where do you look next? Well, it's right here. Bam! So you start looking at the addresses that appear. In this case, www.gifted.slp.k12.la.us. Loads of information there. K-12 at the school, LA.us. There are some who are like, oh, Los Angeles. If you're from my part of the world, you might be like, I don't know, Lower Arkansas? No, actually it's Louisiana. There you go. But the gifted part's interesting as well. And knowing that you're getting something kind of from that setting gives you all the more confidence that that's one worth looking at. So you download it, take a look, see what you think. And if you decide to use it, you know, you let your students know. Okay, yeah, this is something I picked up from the St. Landry's Parish schools and in Louisiana. Let's hear it for them. Yay. All right, and so you cited your source. Very cool. That's worth doing, right? And as you begin looking for stuff, you should understand that there are three possibilities for what you see. You are going to find good, you are going to find bad, and you're going to find a bunch of tepid stuff as well, right? And so when you download, say, PowerPoints, you know, or whatever, they're going to fall into these three categories. And I'll say that the only category among those three that's not useful is the last one. The good and the bad are both useful. The good is good for using as a part of how you introduce things. The bad is actually very interesting for once you're kind of into a topic with kids, and then you say, all right, guys, I'm going to show you a presentation on this topic. I'll tell you right now, it's bad, but I want you to tell me why. So let's take a look at it together. And then, you know, you get them in groups to begin looking at it and start thinking, well, is it bad because of the way the content is presented? Is it because the content's not accurate? Is it because they're not citing their sources? What's up? And getting kids to think about things in that way can be great for getting them to just stop and think about the quality of the information they're swimming in all the time. It's just an ocean of stuff out there, and you know, they don't get enough opportunities, I think, to really mess with things this way. Welcome, Brett. All right, so with this, you know, here's a good challenge for you folks, especially in secondary and tertiary, fun word there. Do a search on like a course you teach and look for the syllabus. So, you know, if you teach, say, human geography, the human geography syllabus file type PDF, you're going to find syllabi, I think is the plural, out there for the stuff you teach, and that will give you ideas. You know, when you're thinking about reinvention, you know, it can be the school. You know, what we're trying to do is this large group. It can just be what you want to find in order to bring you know, a spark back into your own teaching, and in doing that, you know, finding how other people approach it is important. So, you know, think in terms of a tool like this for finding that kind of stuff. So. I would also say that there are a load of wonderful resources out there, and I will promote my own there as well. So this is the resources page of Next Vista for Learning, which is my little charity, and I've got things divided into those 5 categories. Digital media, collaboration, search and research, subject specific, and sources of inspiration. And so stuff like that, like the video called Learn, I mean, that I find videos that make me think, or make me hope, or make me, you know, laugh, or tear up, or whatever it may be, and I put them in that space because that's the kind of stuff that gets us past, I think, our self-imposed barriers to our own learning. When we think about saving ourselves time, a lot of it, it seems counterintuitive to be looking at stuff and exploring. It takes time to do that kind of thing, but you can find stuff that makes a difference, right? And let me get quite specific on that front for a minute. We often bemoan a lack of minutes. Oh, I don't have enough time to get through the curriculum. Fair enough, that happens. But it's not so much that we lack minutes. That's not it. It's typically that we don't have enough good minutes, and that's more under our control than the number of minutes generally speaking, because not all instructional minutes are equal by a long shot, right? There are days when everything's in sync, the kids are paying attention, everybody's into it, and just everybody remembers it. Like, wow, that was awesome, that was incredible. We have those kinds of days. And then we have days where it's like, well, what did I teach? You ask the kids things like, hey, what did we learn yesterday? And you get a bunch of blank stares, and that's depressing enough a thought that you learn not to ask it again. But that's real. It's real that we have days where what we do is so formulaic that it doesn't actually leave an impression that people jump to speak to. And that actually should simply tell us something. Hey, what can we find that will increase the number of really good minutes, the powerful minutes, those moments where something happens and everybody's into it. Now, think about it in this regard. Are there tools available for that? Well, think about simple survey tools. I mean, these could be things like clickers. They could be using phones in interesting ways. It could just be like a Google form and kind of stuff that's available, all kinds of possibilities. But the normal approach to teaching content is actually frighteningly inefficient, I would contend. You teach something, you practice a bit, you review it, you prepare for exam, you test, you grade it, and oops, a bunch of them didn't get it. That's just inefficiency writ large right there. And if you use very simple tools to be able to check where people are anonymously, not by asking boneheaded questions. Who doesn't understand? Oh, like anybody's going to raise their hand to that, right? I mean, 9 out of 10 people who don't understand will not raise their hand because they think that's the equivalent of telling the room, "Hi, I'm an idiot," and they don't want to do that. Imagine. And so if instead you have this anonymous way of saying, "I don't get it," you can get a much better sense of, okay, did I just nail that presentation or did I just blow it? And if you find that it didn't go over very well, even if it's just a scale thing, on a 1 to 10, how are you doing with this? 8.7, you nailed it. Keep going, right? But if it's more like a 2, time to go back and try it again. Steve Anderson was stressing this in his keynote. That's awesome because Steve Anderson's awesome. So I get a little bit of Steve Anderson awesomeness by repeating the idea. Excellent. So when we talk about things like using our time well, we're talking about, I think, moving ourselves in that direction of having some fun as well. So, we think about fun, we think about using time well. And there's one more thing that we all want as well, or at least one more thing that I'm going to talk about that we all want as well, and it's this. We want what our students to do to truly matter. So you look at this picture. I mean, this is a picture that is inspirational at another level, I think, for most teachers. You think about what you don't have in your class. Then you look at, this is a school. So this is a school that takes place under a bridge in Delhi. The kids show up because they want to learn. And at least as inspiring as that are these 2 guys that show up on the right on their, quote, chalkboards, unquote, right, to be able to teach them. Wow, I mean, we have these moments where like, I don't have what I need, and then you see a picture like this, and you're like, maybe I'm doing better than I thought, and that's big, yeah, because it's real that there are things that we would like to have and don't. That's very real. I mean, there are all kinds of wonderful things that we can make happen if we had what we're asking for, but nothing about that keeps us from being able to do cool stuff. I mean, essentially, if you're in a room with a group of kids, you can make some cool things happen. And a lot of that comes down to engaging the kids in the experiences in ways that they often don't feel is happening for them in their education. So, unfortunately, it makes it all the easier because for so many of them, they never see it. So let's talk about, the stuff that matters. So here's a little challenge for everybody. Everybody get ready. This is going to be a fun challenge. Also, get those fingers like above the keyboards, because we're going to try this again. This is going to be a challenge, and you guys are going to be asked to kind of go back a bit on this one. Throw out some guesses. Do what you're going to do. Get ready. Here it comes. Here it comes. What happened on this day? So July 13th, 1985. What happened then? I mean, just, any guesses? All guesses are good, right? There is kind of a specific thing. Okay, Apple, my grandmother's birthday. That's cool. Very cool. All right. No idea. That's very honest. Excellent. It was a week after my 18th birthday. Reagan something. I think there was, something related. But there's something that is very clearly the thing that happened on that day. And my guess is that a few people are actually Googling this this date right now and are on their way to tossing it in. And I'll give you an answer on this as well. But before I do, let's not the same memory for everyone. And the people said, amen. But sometimes the wrong answers are really quite interesting. They really are. And often as we ask for the right answer, we are missing an opportunity for some great answers, right? So asking open-ended questions. What do you think happened this day? What might have happened this day? That's a better question really than what happened on this day. All right, so here it comes. Okay, so this is what happened on July 13th, 1985. Everybody, you ready? You're looking at your screen. You ready? You ready? You get on with it, man. You say, okay, here it comes. It's this. Live Aid. How many of you remember like the hairstyles, the bands? I mean, do you remember this? Toss it in the chat. Yes, I remember this. No, I do not. Where on you then? So, do you remember Live Aid? That was, London. Oh yeah, baby. Like the London and Philadelphia concerts. That was kind of came out of that. Feed the world kind of thing. They had the song in England, months before, Do They Know It's Christmas? And then there was, the song here as well, We Are the World. And then there was this concert, and the whole idea was that something could be transcended, right? So pop music, Adrian, you get a pass. You get a pass. All good. But pop music, tends to be a little vapid, by and large, although it certainly has its moments. Now, when you think about this kind of thing, though, if there are those moments when suddenly everything reaches a new level. What happens? What happens when an idea catches fire, right? And when you think about that, I think you begin to see that. Hang in there, Peggy. I think you begin to see that inspiration has something to tell us on this front, right? So I hope you've seen this video, right? Have you seen Caines Arcade, or the video that led to these pictures anyway? This kid, the boss in the blue, is a kid from East LA who built an arcade out of cardboard at his dad's body shop, and the story of this experience is one that you will never forget. And if you do watch it and you do forget, either you weren't paying attention or you got some serious owning up to do about your priorities. Because this is a make you laugh, make you cry kind of thing. And it's about what happens when a community rallies around a child. That's what inspired communities will do. They will rally around a child. You're like, oh, that was just a one-off. No, remember this? Remember this from last fall? Right? Here's a kid who has cancer, right? And Make-A-Wish Foundation, what does he want? He wants to solve a crime, his bad kid. Okay, now look what happened, right? Thousands and thousands of people, became a part of this moment. It's really all about a kid's dream. Now, if that's all possible, then we have to say, what is it that moves us in that direction? It's inspiration. It's deciding that what happens in the classroom can begin to move people into a place where what they do is not just about checking off boxes, right? Okay, this is what I asked you to do. Did you do it or didn't you do it? It's about asking them to do something that is meaningful, that matters. So here, for example, is a video that's been made in the last 2 weeks. I've got it on YouTube simply because I don't have it on my own site yet, but there you go. Steve, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and cue this bad boy up as well as I explain it. So the project that was going on with this particular one is that I was working with a group of students at a high school that brings me in on a regular basis to work with their teachers. And one of their classes, their courses really, the kids were tasked with getting to know a charity in their community and learning about it and connecting with them and telling the story of that charity from the perspective of a volunteer. And that they would create videos telling this, the stories that they pieced together over that over that experience. And so they're creating videos for nonprofits, often filled with people who are either volunteer. They tend to be wildly understaffed professionally, right, in just terms of the people that pay them, and they don't have time to do something like tell their story via video. And so we decided, hey, what if the kids actually took this on as a project? So Steve, go ahead and toss into this the YouTube video called Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano Counties. Here it comes. Isn't that a cool little video? I mean, the kids did a great job of pulling that together. We actually are going to be showcasing a set of videos. It'll probably be somewhere between 12 and 20 on our site in the next week or two that came out of this project at numerous schools, where the kids were asked to put together a story of service in their community. And so I hope that this is the kind of thing that kids in other places will watch, and they will say, hey, wow, I want to do something like that. I want to make sure that my students are doing something like that. Those kinds of things, I think, just kind of make for a better world. Well, when you think about reinvention, right, what is it that happens at your school that everybody can be proud of? There are those things, right? There are things happening at your school that are interesting. Every teacher does something at least once a year, perhaps by accident, but I mean, it happens, where something cool, occurs in their classroom. And I believe that every teacher should be able to point to something each year that could be an example of what you'd want to tell the world about your school, and to think in those terms. What happens in your class that could be a PR piece for your school? That's not bad. Think in those terms, right? What is it that people would be proud of? What is it that makes the school special? As you begin to understand what those strengths are, then you can really kind of take on the idea of reinvention, because when assignments really pull out of the kid the opportunity to do something for others, that's dynamic. It changes the audience, and changing the audience changes quality. I saw this before. When I first started using video with my students, and the thing that surprised me was that the quality of their work was so much better than I'd seen it before. And it occurred to me, it's like, oh, that they can make sure that it is what they want, rather than thinking in terms of just showing up and trying not to screw up in front of their friends, which frightens them, and it's what makes people frightened of kind of public speaking, period. But I often sum it up in my talks this way. When others will see the student's work, they want it to be good. But when it's just the teacher, they want it to be good enough. And I think that that's real. I think that it's real in terms of how students think about their work, in terms of how we experience joy in terms of looking at the work that they do, things like that. So let me take you back to these pillars, I think, of the first steps towards reinvention. Find fun by learning together, yeah? Save time by not reinventing the wheel. And make it matter. Make sure that what's happening in the classroom is expanding the audience for the students' work in such a way that they are beginning to see that as a possibility. Laura, I would be happy to repeat it. When others will see the students' work, they want it to be good. When it's just a teacher, they want it to be good enough. And it's real, right? So let's all think in terms of like, what is it these kids can do that will make others understand their potential, because they shouldn't be limited to just what we talk about. Now, when we think about this, is there a need to change, right? Do we need to make changes? Well, my guess is that if we poll the room and I said, all right, how many of you can name at least one way your school can improve? Boom! Everybody's going to be like, yes, yes, yes. I mean, this way that we can improve, that way we can improve. Everybody has ideas on that because we all want to see improvement. Now people kind of freak out a bit. Oh, I don't know about change. Well, you can't have improvement without change, that kind of stuff. But let's draw a distinction. There's a difference. Oh, Laura, sorry. Yes, that is my quote, as a matter of fact. I'm proud to say. I actually didn't know it was my quote until I said it somewhere, and then it hit Twitter in a big way, and I was like, oh, wow, check it out. And somebody said, look, what Rushton said. And I was like, oh. So unless we find that somebody else said it, and I forgot who that was, the goof enough one. Exactly, that's right. So yeah, I do believe that is mine. However, I also believe this, that there is no limit to what you can accomplish when it doesn't matter who gets the credit. So, feel free to quote it, and no need to mention my name. But, ask again, ooh, it's like coming back on stage. Awesome. So what it is that when others will see students' work, they want it to be good. When it's just the teacher, they want it to be good enough. There you go. So, if you need that, more, just contact me later. I'll email you. So we're all ready to suggest these changes, but the question becomes, is there a difference between some changes and other changes? And the answer is yes. There's a difference between tweaking what we do and reinvention. There's a big difference. And what is it that may represent a fundamental change in our professional environment that would necessitate reinvention? I think the person who pegged this, as they begin to think about, what does the future hold for schools, is this guy right here. Will Richardson wrote a book called Why School, right? Why School? And it is a good read when you want to think about, how are we thinking about education, now? He essentially points to this. We live in a time of information abundance, and that's recent. Up until very recently, information was scarce, and teachers were gatekeepers to knowledge, and that is just no longer the case. It's just not. And if that's true, then something fundamental has changed that really does force us to consider what it means to reinvent as opposed to merely tweak. And this is a new paradigm, right? And while that change can be, kind of intimidating in some ways, I would argue that, and do this all the time when I visit schools to help, teachers there learn this, that, and the other. I also believe this, that while the thought of change can be daunting, the good news is that change for us as professional educators can be much more fun and much more professionally interesting than where we've been. So getting there can be tough. I understand that. In part, it's about how we see technology. We're afraid of things going wrong. We're like, oh, I'll never be able to keep up. It's all moving so fast. And the truth is, that's right? You can't keep up. And is that bad news? Actually, no. It's good news. It means you're liberated from having to do so because it can't be done. There's another thing that I say often is that if you know everything there is to know about educational technology, 5 minutes from now, you'll be behind. Way it is. So Don't worry about it, right? You know, if what's going to happen is technology is going to turn totally normal people into stress cases, then we're doing something wrong. But on the other hand, if we can't keep up, then we're kind of liberated to be able to say, let's just concentrate on what fascinates us. What does that mean for us? Well, it means we have to be flexible. And I think that the flexibility that we bring to our work is the stuff that allows for the fun, that allows us to begin thinking in terms of time, you know, being used much more efficiently, and to focus in on the kinds of things that really will matter, that people remember, so that what we're teaching is not just the stuff to check off boxes. That's not where we want to get to the end of our careers and say we did. So the projects at my nonprofit at nextvista.org are about that kind of thing. You know, make videos that teach others, that help other people learn things, that tell the stories of volunteers, that tell about different places in the world, that tell about career possibilities, you know, in 5 minutes or less. You know, we got a lot of this kind of stuff, and I'd be very happy to you know, stay in touch with you and talk about getting involved in some of the projects we do if that's of interest. We're actually getting ready to start a big one now on geography and videos that teach geography in really creative ways. So if you're like, whoa, I'm in, then you know, email me. And we'll make it happen. So with that, let's wind things down. I want to tell you a story about an elephant. Baby elephants are trained in circuses in a particular way. You know, when you first get a little, you know, a cute little elephant, not so little really, but there you go. You know, you have to learn to get it to obey. Well, what do? Well, at the end of the day, after you've been getting it to balance the ball or whatever you're going to do, you take it over to the pillar and you chain its leg to the pillar. Now, at first, this is really quite traumatic for the baby elephant. You know, they want to get away. You know, it hurts. You know, all this kind of stuff. And so it's this very negative experience. What they figure out is that if they just stand still, it won't hurt. And so what they learn very quickly is that, you know, you can kind of march the elephant over to the pillar, you chain the leg, and the elephant just stands there. They just stand there. And that's because they don't want it to hurt, and very quickly they get used to the chain. Well, you know, I think the connection's obvious. There are all kinds of things in our lives that represent that chain. You know, what is, essentially, that's the question, what is your chain? What is it that maybe you did as a teacher early on just to be able to make sure things would be okay, and then suddenly, you know, you began to grow, and even though you could break that chain easily, you don't because you're used to it, right? So what's that piece of who you are? Find that chain and break it, because you know, it may be that, you know, you haven't done enough of asking kids, you know, their opinions about how activities that you do in class could be better. They'll have ideas. Some of them will be lame. Some of them will change how you see your world, right? So think in those terms. It's fun. It's a fun time. You can reinvent your classroom with your colleagues working as a team. You can reinvent your school. So maybe we have a time for a couple of questions. That'd be great. And I certainly encourage you to stay in touch. So that's me right there. You can reach me at Rushton@gmail. Oops, that's actually not the one I meant. You know, if you get to the end of these slides and everything went exactly according to plan, that'd be weird. So there's the better one for me right there, rh@nextvista.org, but you can get to me either way. There's my Twitter, the videos are there. There's all those free resources at nextvista.org/resources. There's a newsletter, nextvista.org/newsletter, and we send out word of new videos we've added to the site, cool free resources run across, and things that I think are inspiring one way or another. And that's monthly. If you ever get tired of it, you just click unsubscribe, you know, no offense taken. And you can get to all of these slides from that shortcut right there, tinyurl.com/rh-reinvention. And see if you toss that in there, that'd be awesome. So I hope that was useful for you guys. I hope that this was fun for you in some way. And if you know, stay in touch. I want to continue the conversation.
We're going to stop there because
we've got go away going, wow.
Just about a minute before we wait for the session to start. Folks, thank you so much. Always a delight to hear you present. Thanks for being a keynote speaker at Reinventing the Classroom. Can't wait to
My pleasure. Thanks.
Catch up with you at some point. Thanks, everybody. Coming up now, Gary Lopez on personalized learning for college math readiness, and Melda Yildiz, rethinking learning through education, time, space, and technology. Hope you're having fun. We sure are. Bye now.